Good morning, everyone. I've missed you. But it's okay, because we're back. We're back. And we're here to vibe. Damn it, my login is out of date, so I can't see chat. Hold on. Sorry. Okay. Hi, everyone. How we doing? We doing good? Are we feeling, dare I say, Gucci? Are you feeling like Hideo Kojima and Jeff Keighley on any day? Steamy? Hopefully. Man, do I have some stories to share. For anybody not familiar, I have been at Summer Game Fest for the last however many days. We got there Thursday, so it's been almost a week. Long trip, but very fun. And all sorts of stuff happened. I mean, all sorts of goodies. Got to go to actual SGF with SGF, and then we got to go to, met Sven, head honcho behind Baldur's Gate and Larian. Try to replace that stuff. I was invited to the Xbox Game Showcase to see it live, but I had a bit of a problem because like our time to go and play Star Wars Outlaws and see a big behind the scenes thing of AC Shadows was like at 11:50, I think, and the Xbox show didn't end until noon. So I would have had to leave like 45 minutes before the end of the show and then watch it on my phone for all the big final announcements. And I was like, well, what's even going to be there? And apparently the Xbox showcase was just a theater where they played a video. They didn't even like do any live component. Funnily enough, one of my buddies was actually at the Xbox showcase and seated right behind Phil Spencer and Mr. Matt Booty, the head of Xbox Studios. And he was like a little sneaky and saw that right after the Indiana Jones trailer, Mr. Matt Booty was texting a little Todd Howard. Man, they really liked that. That was good. The reception's been great. Which is just funny to see like these people you recognize that are all like chatting with each other and rubbing elbows and stuff. It was funny. Beyond that, I mean, it was really cool. We got to see all sorts of wonderful people. I didn't get the chance to meet Hidetaka Miyazaki. He was there. I did get to see and play Elden Ring's DLC. So I did get to try that. But it's pretty interesting that he flew all the way here and didn't participate in any specific announcements. That to me says he probably was doing some cool behind the scenes stuff. He was at SGF at one point, but he didn't make any like public appearances as far as I know. So I have some suspicions as to what that's about, but I mean, it's not super important. Beyond that, what else? Oh yeah, I told you guys in that video, you can't see him here, but like, look at this. Do you recognize the shirt? So this is one of the guys working on the Batman Arkham VR game. And so their whole team was seated like 2 rows in front of us, just over here. The whole team. And right as they announced, like Jeff says, the future of the Arkham series or whatever, the crowd. And then it says like exclusively on Oculus Quest. I've never heard so many thousands of people sigh all together. I felt honestly pretty bad for them because they were all excited to like showcase their big game, and then everybody's just like, oh. It was a little sad, honestly. I felt bad for them. Kappa Claus, thank you for 12 months, my friend. Thank you, Luke, for always entertaining me and the rest of your audience every day. You make the gaming community and the world a better place. Oh, thank you, Kappa. 12 months too. Gee whiz, you make the world a better place with that. 12 stunning months. Thank you, my friend. Thank you. And Yokes. Thank you, Yokes. Just continued their sub from a Prime/gift and also gave out a community sub. Thank you, Yokes. Appreciate you, my friend. Thank you. And Shayla, thank you for the 5. Hey, Luke, hope you're having a good morning. Have you heard about the live action Watch Dogs movie they're making? I think Callum Turner could play Aiden. I'd heard rumblings. I didn't know it was confirmed yet, though. I mean, they're trying to do something with that franchise either way, because the games have kind of stalled out, and it seems like Watch Dogs is indefinitely on ice as far as games are concerned. So maybe they, I don't know, maybe they find another way to spark up some interest that way. But, yeah, it was cool. These guys were seated there. The guys from Ace, I want to say Ace Squadron or something like that, were right next to us. But in front of me, right here, just out of frame, not this guy, but the guy that was sitting right behind him, was the most terminally online, worrying person I've ever been close to. Apparently, he's some sort of creator. I don't know who this person is. He wore like a hat with cat ears and goggles on him. I think he spoke mainly Spanish, but good God almighty, I am not joking. For the full 2-hour showcase at SGF, he is seated kind of like this with like a leg up, and he has his phone on his lap. And he's watching his own Instagram reels on a loop. And when it like auto scrolls, he swipes back up and rewatches it. And like, I can see that it's just a video of him like outside of the theater going, hey, we're about to be going to Summer Game Fest. It's gonna be super cool, super excited. Whatever it was. He had like an earpiece in or like a headphone or something. Or he was watching it muted, I'm not sure. But like, damn, bro, chill. Chill out. And that's, you know what? If you like yourself some you, that's okay. We've all been there. But this guy also was like pausing.
Through Super Chat.
Oh yeah, I read it, Shayla. Thank you again, Shayla. Thank you. But yeah, like he would then stop after an announcement and then film himself like point blank, because you know when it's dark in a room and like if you get close enough to the phone lights up your face. So he has his phone like right here where the angle is just hilarious. And he's talking into it like, I cannot believe that announcement. And like, this is the angle. Like, that's what I was seeing down in front from that angle. I was like, bro, chill out. And furthermore, no name drops or nothing. I already like verbalized to some of these people my frustrations. At the Ubisoft Forward event, I'm spilling all the tea. Because if I don't, it'll stay like pent up. At the Ubisoft Forward event, we were seated with a group. That's Jeff Keighley, like right there. So like we're all seated together, and at one point, like we got a text before the show started, like an hour before the show started, from Ubisoft PR saying, don't film anything on your phones, don't use a separate camera, you'll get all of this footage afterwards in much better quality. Like, just don't film it, okay? The message was much more straightforward. It was just, remember, don't record anything of the event or presentation. You can take pictures, but don't record video. Guess what all of the TikTok dudes did? They all filmed it, like holding phones up to block everyone's view the second anything happened. And they kept their phone up for painfully long. Now I'm taller, so I can like see around it. But there was this poor little lady like seated, like these guys are 2 rows. I think there's another row right here, but there's a little lady seated right here behind some of these guys, and she could not see anything. And of course they're filming all the big announcements, and they're holding it up to like get their shot for their, I don't know, story or whatever. It was like the most inconsiderate thing. And then also directly contrary to what they were told to do by Ubisoft PR. Like, it was just so freaking selfish. It blew my mind. And I vented to some of these guys, and I was like, that really wasn't cool. I mean, they said that you shouldn't do that. Like, they said we can't record. And they were like, well, you know, TikTok's all about getting the engagement fast. I was like, I don't care. They asked you to not do that. Like, we all took pictures. Obviously, we took pictures, but like, it was just very inconsiderate. It drove me crazy. Now, to be fair, some people were much more, if you're gonna do it, like, this is fine. I don't think anybody will be upset about that. It's holding it up in front of like the people behind you so they can't see. And that ticked me off, because I saw this little lady like trying to bend and see the screen because she's also a fan, but she can't see because all these guys are like half standing up to film it to put it on their story. I'm like, guys, come on. They told you not to. Anyway, I could vent all day about that because it drives me crazy. I'm a boomer when it comes to that stuff. But other than that, lovely, lovely time. We had a wonderful series of dinners. We hung out with some beautiful people. And let me be clear, like when I say TikTokers, I mean like there was 1 guy or 2 guys that were obnoxious. Everyone else is just delightful. Like everyone else is just a gem. And like the guys that I like who do the TikTok stuff, you can talk to them about this stuff and they're like, yeah, no, that makes sense. That checks out. So, but some of them are just have like, I don't think they're even gamers. Like one of them even told me, he's like, yeah, I don't really play games, but it gets the views. And I was like, okay, that is the definition of a hack. Like you don't even care about what you're talking about. You're just doing it because it gets you views so you can come to events like this. Like it drove me crazy. Any cosplayers? EA paid for some cosplayers at their like lounge. And so they had some amazing Apex Legends cosplayers that were basically just out there hanging out. That was really, really cool. Yeah. But as for like inviting them to play days or anything, like, no, not really. Not really. Bree, thank you for the 10. Hi, Luke. Funny story for you. It was my birthday the other day and my brother got me a gift. He doesn't play at games much. I opened up Skull and Bones. I didn't have the heart to tell him. Oh no. Well, you know, yeah, it's the thought that counts. It's the thought that counts, right? It's like when like your grandma gets you an Xbox 360 game or a PS2 game and gives it to you, and it's just like, well, what do you think? And you're like, like you just don't have the heart to tell her. It's like, I love it, Grandma. Because like, are you gonna really take the time to explain to her the intricacies of generational updates or anything? Like, no, of course not. So, yeah. Um,
For you. It was my birthday.
oh, it's so delayed on reading it, man. Oh man. Okay. Did I meet Jor? Yeah, no, we met up and spent a good amount of time together. We got dinner the night he flew in. We hung out a bunch. We were at the same previews. Yeah, we hung out with the one and only Assassin's Creed landmarks. Like, so me, Jor, Andy, like, look at these kicks too. Damn it, Jor Raptor. He's out here slinging. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. But yeah, no, we had a great time. We had a great time. Yeah, Jor is real, not just an AI as far as I can tell. Yeah. Yeah. Beyond that, what else? I mean, it's really surreal to be walking around a place like that and you're looking around and you're seeing, you know, people you've been watching and following for ages and you're like, oh God. Oh yeah, hung out with Sarth a bunch. He's a gem. He's a gem. Tell you what. Yeah. Met up with Jake Baldino and their crew. It was just very good. Very, very good. Did you see any games that were not announced during Game Fest? It kind of depends on what you mean by now. Like, do you mean they weren't shown at SGF or like they haven't been announced, period? Because we did see some games at SGF that were not shown at SGF. So like the Elden Ring DLC, there were no trailers or anything for that, but you could play it at SGF, you know? How's Jake in IRL? Oh, he's a gem. Yeah, Jake goes to most of these events and he's always just super, super sweet. Did you meet Falcon? He might have been there flying around and I just didn't see him, but I did not see him. But I wasn't really looking up, so who knows? Which games have I tried? So some games I tried and I still can't talk about them because they're still under embargo. Those I will just awkwardly pretend don't exist and I won't really talk about. Make sense? Okay. If it's like, why is Luke not talking about this when it feels like he should be? It's probably because I can't, right? As for the ones I did try, so I didn't get to play, nobody got to play Monster Hunter Wilds. Nobody, which was kind of disappointing. I was hoping we would get to see it, or like actually play it, you know. But we did get to see an extended demo that was about half an hour long. And I guess we can talk about it. News segment. So, Monster Hunter Wilds just looks outrageous. In many ways, it looks like a true, like, next generation evolution of the series. It's massive, and more than anything, I'm going to use a word I use a ton in my Outlaws video. It's fluid. It's very fluid. All I mean by that is there's no more like accepting a quest or a hunt and then going into a load screen, traveling to the spot from the hub, and then starting the hunt for 45 minutes or 50 minutes, and then moving on. Like there's none of that anymore. Instead, there is a hub for the desert world, and you just accept hunts and just go out and start hunting. It's super, super smooth. There's not much, like things aren't really in chunks anymore. Load screens are almost entirely gone. The only time there are load screens are, of course, when you're loading into new zones, but it seems like that's going to be pretty rare. I mean, you just think of it, like how often were you moving from the ancient forest, or how many hours did you spend in the ancient forest before you move on to the next place and the next place and the next place, right? Like you're probably going to be spending 10, 20 hours in each before you unlock the next one. So you could presumably just play for a few days before hitting a load screen, right? Beyond that, there's all sorts of other like interactions that they've added. So, you know, dynamic weather systems. They've added in things like smaller monsters can sort of have turf wars with bigger monsters and stuff like that, which is super, super cool to see. Let's see, are there any interesting ways the team wants to have the monsters and even humans now interact with each other in almost dynamically in Monster Hunter Wilds? Yeah, thank you. Really, what we were trying to present with the monster actions is just powered up nature of the ecosystems that we've been able to express in the game. Up until now, we've only really been able to display 3 monsters of 3 types in the field, but now that's really ballooned into these packs and herds of monsters that you've been able to see. Kind of what we've been able to do in previous games with small monsters, now on a much larger scale with large monsters also interacting with these huge groups of monsters. So being able to really detail and express these ecosystems in a really detailed fashion is what we've really been excited to be able to accomplish here with Wilds. So for example, what you were able to see with the Sandstorm and the Apex monster that appeared there, that lightning-based monster and how it interacts with the other monsters that only appear in certain kinds of the environment, that kind of dynamism, that kind of constantly changing environment is something that we've been really able to accomplish, and we really want to push that aspect. It's kind of hemming and hawing, bouncing around, very unclear, but basically, in a map like the desert map, there will be times where a sandstorm blows in, and during the sandstorm, there's certain times, or there's certain monsters that won't spawn in the sandstorms, or there's certain monsters that only spawn during sandstorms, or other weather systems, or times of day, and things like that. And so you have to be very, very in tune with all of it. And again, it just seems much more dynamic, much more dynamic. And they even showed us, there was a part where after the sandstorm blew past, they show like little birds flying back into trees and setting up nests and stuff now that the storm was over, and that's something previously just wouldn't really happen. So there's a lot more detail that's tied into all of it. Other little bitty quality of life things like being able to swap weapons while out in the field, being able to pull up the mini map, which kind of takes up half the screen while you're exploring. That's super cool. There's also now a UI element telling you if the monster you're hunting is aggroed to you. So you can be like running away from it while it's chasing you without having to constantly look back at it to see if it's following you. You just know with that little indicator, a line coming off of the player character that, oh, they're still aggroed. I can look for environmental stuff to shoot down or whatever else. So there's all sorts of little quality of life improvements from what I've been able to tell. And then everything else, I mean, it just seems to be Monster Hunter World cranked and then made super modern. And I am here for it. It's one of those things where like there really was not much to poke holes in. It's just like, yep, it looks awesome. One of the other things they did have is they had AI controlled companions you could call in. So presumably if you're in a fight with a big monster, you can call in like AI companions to fight for you. And then you can fast travel back to camp while those companions keep the monster aggroed. You can either get food or you can get new equipment, whatever else. And then you go back and fast travel back out to rejoin the hunt. So there's all sorts of little bitty things like that that are really, really interesting and just way smoother. Way smoother. They say, are there any other weapons, movesets that in Monster Hunter Wilds that the team is really excited about? And he said, on the whole, well, to summarize what's going on with Wilds is we are presenting the full lineup of 14 different weapon types, and each of those different weapon types is going to have new moves, new action, new mechanics. One of the major things that's shared among all new weapons is that there were going to be moves now where in previous games you had to be stationary when the moves were executed. Now there's more positioning available to you. You can move while performing those moves to allow you to better yourself towards the monster. Yeah, it's a little clunky. Furthermore, there's also weak points now. So if you open a wound on a monster, it'll show up as like a little glowing red spot, like on the elbow or something, and then you can target that with precision attacks, and if you target that, it deals higher crit damage. Basically, there's just many little bitty things. It's not going to be like, I know there were rumors that it was going to be fully open world, meaning that, like, you know, you travel far enough to the north and you'll hit the snowy map, and then you travel to the west and you'll hit the ocean map. It doesn't work like that as far as I can tell. It still has areas that you load into separately, but those areas are bigger, way more detailed, and there's, you know, no friction between it. It's very fluid as you explore different missions and hunts in that particular ecosystem. Other little quality of life improvements, there's a 3D mini map thing you can pull up now, way better than the multi-layer one they had before. You can actually move it around and figure out where you need to go. It's way better. Was it a live demo? Yes, it was a live demo running off of a PC. We could see, like, down or over rather on the table, where one of the designers was actually playing the game live. And to be fair, like, it was a very scripted demo. Like, it was clear that this was something they had orchestrated very precisely many times. There's a part where, like, he would turn the camera to look over here. Nothing's happening. Oh, and look, this dynamic randomly generated storm is blowing in. So, like, there were things like that where you could tell they had set things up in a certain way. That doesn't mean that that's all not in the game. It just means for the sake of demonstration, they needed to set it up that way so that it could, you know, they could hit each story beat each and every time, or demo beat, whatever you want to call it. Did I say the new lightning dragon thing? Yeah, so they, at one point, the big, I forgot what the name is. I have my notes here. But at one point, some of the big monsters come in and start fighting each other. It's just really, again, fluid. Let me see. Looking. Okay. Yeah, they were hunting an alpha Doshiguma. Let's see. They showed other things, like the villages you go into have much more thought put into them. So at one point they went into a village where they were breeding a certain type of mini, like, beast or monster or whatever, and they produced milk. And so the whole village's purpose was to take that milk and turn it into cheese, which you could purchase and then use in crafting or healing, whatever else. So it seems like they've put a lot more thought into some of those little camps and stuff you'll find in the world, which was pretty cool. Beyond that, let's see. Yeah, they hinted at making sure you understand the broader ecosystem and you can use it to your advantage. So, for example, they said there are certain signs. They didn't tell us what they were, but there were certain signs in the environment where you'd be able to tell, like, oh, there is like a sand pit, or, like, you know, quicksand basically over here. And I can tell that because there's a monster that's burrowed underneath it. And I just have to be able to recognize the signs and then lead a bigger monster, such as this alpha, what did I say his name was? I'm blanking on his name now. Alpha Doshiguma. You could lead him into that sand pit, and then all of his, like, little bodyguard monsters fall in and get suffocated and die. And so then you don't have to clear them out. So it seems like they're really trying to push for you to become an expert in each ecosystem as you play through it, which I think will make sense and I think will work well from what I was able to tell. Do you think someone who has never played Monster Hunter would be able to get into this game? Oh yeah, but I would encourage you. Like, this is one of those games, from what I've seen, it seems like it will be very hard to go back after playing this. Everything else will feel really behind the curve. So, like, for example, if you play, maybe you point at, like, Spider-Man 2. Or no, the better example is, like, Tears of the Kingdom. You play Tears of the Kingdom on the Switch. You play that, but then you try to go back and play Breath of the Wild, and it feels like half of your Your abilities have been taken away. The world is way less interesting. It's way smaller. It just feels worse in almost every way. I would encourage you, if this seems interesting, go play World now in the lead up to the next game. Go play that, get a feeling for it, and then come and play this later. Yeah, Red Dead is the same. Yeah, if you get Red Dead 2 and you try to go back, you're like, I get that it's older, but it just feels worse, because it frankly is. You'd hope so. They've spent all these years making it better. It should feel worse than the new thing, but I would encourage you to like enjoy World while you can, because once you play this, it might become a little more difficult, you know? So beyond that, let's see any other things. Let's see. Yeah, you can set up camps outside of the main base while you're out in the world. You just kind of like deploy it, and then a crew of palicos come and like set it up and build it for you. It's really cute. But it seems like, you know how in World you kind of like, you discover the site and you set it up. You're like, okay, we'll set up camp here, and then it takes time or a mission or whatever. I don't remember how long it is, but it takes a while. In this, like, they actually build it in front of you, and then you have another camp, which is kind of cool. Yeah, and it altogether, it seemed like they were focused on trying to make sure that they utilized all of these different things all at once. So I fully expect some of the new monster hunts and stuff will be built to specifically benefit from having a ranged weapon and a melee weapon, having some more variability. I don't think they're going to be focused on like hyper specialization for one weapon. I got the vibe that they were going to try to encourage you to use two weapons at the same time, kind of swapping between them as the fight went on, which some people might love, some people might hate. Crouton, thank you for the 10. Been listening to your streams for a bit. I want to say thanks. You helped me manage expectations and hype with upcoming games, and as a result, my gaming experience recently has been more positive. I'm glad to hear it, my friend. Thank you. Thank you for the 10. Very generous. And yeah, Kinomansky, as for whether the demo ran well, everything we saw ran really well. It was, from what I could tell, like full 4K. It was on like a 10-foot wide screen, so it was massive, but it seemed to run really well. It, like, no hitching, no problems, no real issues at all. And that was not true of all of them. I will talk in a few minutes about probably the weakest demo we saw all week. I think you guys already know what it is. But yeah, we'll talk about that later. Not all the demos we saw were very impressive. Just gonna say that. What's your main weapon in Monster Hunter? I usually go Greatsword, honestly. I usually go Greatsword. But I mean, I swap around. I've used dual blades. I really shake it up. I was gonna try Insect Glaive, but I don't know. I'm not very good with it. No, Dragon Age. No, we'll talk about Dragon Age. Dragon Age, I got to see a full hour of, and it was one of the most impressive games we saw at the whole show. And like, everybody was saying it there. I don't know what people are reporting on now, but people were walking out of that demo like, okay. We saw that trailer at I think it was Xbox, where they were showing the companion trailer, and it was like weirdly Fortnite inspired. It was really cringe. The game itself is nothing like that. Whatever marketing person's responsible for that companions trailer they dropped, no idea what they're doing, but the actual game was like pretty impressive. Let's see. Thank you guys. Lucas, thank you for, oh wait, I gotta go in order. First, Brandon, thank you for 19 months. You picking up any collector's editions that dropped? Also, what game let you down the most at SGF? Collector's editions, I have one already set up for the Elden Ring DLC because they're doing a collector's edition of that. And then I also have one for Space Marine 2 because I'm a big Warhammer guy and it just is an awesome statue. I did get to also play that game at SGF, and it's not as like stunning, brave, or beautiful as I was hoping, but it was really solid. Like, I think it's going to feel like playing a 360 game in the best way. It's probably not going to like win any Game of the Year awards, but I think you can have fun with it, especially if you're a Warhammer fan, you know. Let's see. As for what game let me down the most, what game let me down the most? I mean, it's kind of tricky because we only set schedules for stuff that we thought was going to be good. So I think I'd have to say Stalker. I thought Stalker was going to be really good, but we'll do that whole segment here in a second, because I'm just going to tell you guys right now. I tell you this right now. Stalker 2. What was shown in that like Xbox showcase trailer, the game looks and plays nothing like that. Like, I genuinely don't know where they got this trailer. Maybe they just have like a super out of date demo, and then the trailer is the modern version of the game. But like, it's bad. Like, it was bad. And like, everyone that tried it said it was bad. So, the only people I know of that have been like, actually, I kind of liked it, are like well-known like Xbox fanboys. But like, I genuinely don't know what they're seeing, because that demo was rough. But we'll get to that in a second. I have the trailer pulled up, and I'll talk about my experience with it. And I hope it's just, it might be one of those games where the demos are just bad, but the game's really good. I hope that's the case. But this is now like 2 shows back to back where people were like, really? Because even at Gamescom, it was most people's least favorite game at Gamescom. So like, at what point are the demos just bad? Maybe suggesting that the game might be bad too. Like, and it sucks because I want them to like do well. I want them to figure it out, but it's like, I'm not going to lie to you guys and say the demo was good if it's not good. Anyway, Lucas, thank you for that. Sorry for the pump fake earlier. 7 months. Ooh, baby. Luke, I've been waiting since the showcase ended for a review / reaction / opinions on the showcase. Well, we've got the whole... Whoops, I just closed it. We've got the... Damn, I literally just had the tab pulled up, and then I was trying to click on the tab, and I closed the tab. Man, professional streamer right here. I'm telling you what. Yeah, the Xbox showcase was very, very impressive. Just across the board. I mean, I think it was really, really good. No real weak spots or anything. Maybe the best way to do this is for us to just go through the whole thing and skip over the, like, you know, in between stuff, all the filler and trailers that aren't really worth mentioning it. But maybe we just work through it that way. What are some of the other things before we do that? At SGF, Lego Horizon. I didn't play Lego Horizon. I know it was there and was playable, but yeah, it was good. Phantom Blade Zero was also one of those games I did not expect to like as much as I did, but it was very good. And it plays very differently. I know some people are like, I never thought it was like a Souls-like. They've used the term Souls-like in some of their marketing, but it does not play like a Souls-like game at all. It plays like a Devil May Cry. It's combo-based mainly. So it's more about stringing together combos and then swapping weapons. So if you look down in the bottom right, there's one weapon here and then this orange meter. And so basically as this orange meter drops, you want to swap weapons. That'll give you a fresh orange meter, kind of like stamina. Then you swap and you continue your chain of attacks that way. I know some people said that they made the demos easier for the sake of being able to get through more of these encounters during the demo. And that would make sense because what we played was way easier than I thought it would be. But they also did not tell me or anybody on my team that this was a dumbed down version of the game. So I think it was IGN that said they were told that. We were not told that. So maybe it's just somebody slipped and said it was easier when they weren't supposed to say that. I don't know. But yeah, the game, all I know is playing it, the version that we actually got, it played way easier than I thought it would be. Beyond that, though, it plays very, very differently. It's much less about proper timings. It's much less about like figuring out when to get in there and when to dodge and doing the perfect dodges and stuff or perfect parries. That stuff does play into it, but it seemed to me much more about finding the times to like see that there's an opening and then string together a multi-combo that takes away half of the boss's health. Like the people that were really good at this demo, once you got the hang of it, you could kill a boss in one combo, which was cool. Super cool. But, you know, if it's a dumbed down version, maybe the more difficult version of that boss, it's like 2 or 3 combos to get them wiped out, or it's like 5 or 10 combos to get them, you know, whittled down. But it was fun. Like it was just genuinely fun. Like how cool is that? I will say that initial demo or trailer they did where like he's spinning around and parrying 2 people at the same time. So Phantom Blade Zero announcement trailer. This one, they show him like spinning around dual parrying people right here. And I will say that we didn't see any parries like this. I think we did fight this guy though. Yeah, we did. We fought this guy. And it was a good fight. It was cool. Thank God the camera angle is wider than this. It's much, much wider field of view than what they present there. But those crazy like dual parries, not really a thing from what I saw, even with multiple enemies coming in. Maybe there's like an upgrade you need for it or something, but I didn't really see a whole lot of that. Yeah, like that's cool. Plays well, looks cool. So I think it's going to be a good game, and it ran really well. I did have a crash. They did say that was the first crash of the day, and we were playing at like 2 p.m. roughly, maybe like 1:30 p.m. So considering they had 4 stations running with 30-minute demos on each, they got through a lot of people before having a crash. So considering the game is still a ways out, I think that's a pretty good sign. It seems like the game is running really, really well. So I thought that game was really, really impressive. That's one I expected to be like, yeah, we'll try it. But man, it worked really, really well. Let's see. Did anyone get to play Shadows? No. Shadows was not playable, which to be clear is not unheard of. The game is still like 5-6 months away, which in the context of marketing and preview events is like forever away. Like just to put it in perspective, they probably are going to have 2 or 3 dedicated media events, like media demo events, whatever, before release. So there will be plenty of time for people to play it and see it. This just wasn't that time. It seemed like they were much more concerned with getting people the chance to try Star Wars Outlaws and see what that's like. And that was the priority. How many dedicated WAM? I'm not sure. I'd have to ask my dad since he wants the Minecraft Sovo. Shadows and Outlaws. Is Ubisoft cooking? Yeah, should we do that and then Xbox and go through all of Xbox? Should we do that? Oh, just shout out to the other one I thought looked really good before we do that. Expedition 33. Some people were giving this game crap, saying that it looked too generic or like it looked too Final Fantasy-y. I don't know, man. I thought this looked awesome. Like the set pieces, graphically, it's phenomenal. The fights look cool. Like it's this hybrid turn-based thing. Like I think this game looks fire, and I don't care what anyone says. I think it looks awesome. So I will be keeping a close eye on this one. Cause man, I mean, come on. I'm a sucker for good boss design too, and it seems like they've got it in spades, man. They got plenty. Look at that. Just looks epic. Oh, love it. So yeah, Expedition 33. I think that looks great. There are things I love in AC Shadows Showcase, but my classical AC brain truly does miss strong, iconic protagonist, well written. Really, truly miss that. I will say, guys, at this event, and for the last few months, but especially at this event, I have heard rumblings of what the future of AC really holds. Specifically, like what is coming in 2020, like 2029, 2030. Just buckle up for some fan service and then also some people to throw fits. Because I think there's going to be a lot of mind-splitting headaches. And then also like, okay, but that's cool, but oh, that's awesome. Like there's going to be a lot of emotions. Now, the reason I'm not going to tell you guys about it, I'm sorry. The reason I'm not going to tell you guys about it is because it's so early, things could change. And also because like I haven't seen this stuff myself, so I don't know for a fact that it is going to happen in that way. If I were to see it, then I could like speak about it. But like I do think that they're seriously trying to evaluate what people want and figure out how to cater to that. That's super vague and I'm sorry, so I'm just gonna move on. But we'll see if that actually ends up being the case. What else did we have? Oh yeah, I already kind of talked about AC Shadows and Outlaws a tad. Or AC Outlaws, Star Wars Outlaws. And I know like some people are saying, oh no, the trailer's being mass downvoted. I don't like at this point I've totally checked out of the mass downvote thing. Like I'm not putting any weight at all into any of that stuff. Like just because Asmongold makes a video saying he thinks a trailer looks bad does not mean the game will sell well or that the game will be bad. You know, like it just doesn't translate that because one community doesn't like something that the other community won't support it and buy it. Same thing. Like everything Call of Duty ever does is mass downvoted and everybody's like, this is garbage. And if they are initially positive, that lasts for like a few days and then they find something else to be pissed about. So I just don't buy it. And it's still like the biggest game in the world. So it's like until there's a clear tie to like, okay, this is mass downvoted and therefore it must flop, then there's something to take away from it. But there's been plenty of games with like mass downvote campaigns against trailers and videos and stuff that end up doing really well. So I just don't take it. I don't take it much or with much credibility. Asman said, I hope they don't make it political about Metal Gear. Yeah, that seems like an odd take. Yapping, we need to talk about Killer Bean. Killer Bean looks awesome. That is the future of gaming. You heard it here first. Killer Bean will save us all. It was sarcastic? Okay, good. I wasn't sure if you were saying that he was like actually serious. Because I'm like, I don't know how you how you say that. It's like, you know, the guy that's like, you know, the news has just gotten so political. You know, I just want reporting on the election that's not political. It's like, but oh man. Yeah, if it's a joke, then that's funny. That's funny. What's sad is that you like nowadays you can't really tell if that's a joke or not, because there are people that are like, I don't think you know, narratives or films or novels should be political. And it's like, bro, that's just like what art is. Like you don't have to like that political take or anything, but that's what art often is they're making different statements about the world and culture and society. And like, we can agree that certain like political quote unquote takes are stupid. That's fine. Oh, wow, guys. They sent me a key for Drug Dealer Simulator. There you go. That's the next critique, I guess. Oh, man. That's funny. Katie, yeah, I want my Drug Dealer Simulator not to be too political. One thing I learned from watching content creators, don't take everything they say so seriously. Their opinion doesn't govern your life. And if they try to passive aggressively criticize you, then stop watching them. You don't need that toxicity. Yeah, Katie, I think that's a good way of putting it. Well, and it's also like, we're allowed to disagree. I'm going to say stupid stuff you guys will disagree with, and you don't have to agree with me. And if you disagree with me, you're still welcome in chat, as long as you're not like disrupting videos or streams and stuff. But you're still perfectly welcome here, you know? No problem. People can have different opinions. I can think that like Expedition 33 looks really good, and maybe you think it looks too much like, you know, particle effects porn or whatever. That's fine. We can disagree, you know? And we can still be gamers. We can still enjoy the same thing, you know? But it seems like nowadays everybody freaks out if anything is brought up that like there's any sort of butting heads. People just lose their minds. And it's like, you don't have to. Not everything has to be so dramatic, you know? Okay, let me keep catching up on these. Thank you everybody for the very generous like super chats and stuff, and memberships. Magnum Sky Wolf, thank you for subbing with Prime over on Twitch. I will catch up on these as fast as I can. Rod Films, Luke, I'm almost done with the first Plague Tale based off your recommendation. Went in blind as I could and am loving it. Maybe the best looking game. Oh, just wait till you play the second game, my friend. Plague Tale Requiem. Especially if you can play them back to back. I kind of wish I had been able to play them back to back, because back to back, you're in for an emotional roller coaster. Buckle up, buckaroo. It will break your brain. I'm just warning you, get the tissues now. Michael, thank you for the 2. I think Fragpunk and Concord are opposites. Is Fragpunk that like Overwatch looking game that they showed during the Xbox show? With like the cards? Let's see. I think it is. Maybe. Yeah, Blade Master, right? Yeah, popping cards. Yeah, that one at least seemed interesting. And if you don't know what that one is, that's the it's like a 5v5 game, kind of like an Overwatch, but you can get cards for your team that have like broader environmental impacts. So it could be like, okay, grow grass everywhere, or everyone gets big heads, making headshots easier, stuff like that. And that's really, really cool. And I appreciated that it was like a 2-3 minute trailer. They put it out there. We're like, hey, enjoy. And that's it. They don't spend 15 minutes trying to convince you it's the next biggest thing ever. They just are like, yeah, here's our game. We think it's cool. Check it out if you're interested. And honestly, I am interested because it's an interesting, novel, unique concept, or rather twist on an established concept. And I think that that's really cool. I think that's awesome. So that's one, like, straight up, as long as it's not like $70, I'll be trying it because I think it looks awesome. I think it looks fun and different, but like familiar, different, if that makes sense. So yeah, I think that one looks great. I remember actually stopping and turning to Jacob and being like, that actually looked pretty good. That actually looked pretty cool. So I'm in. And yeah, as for opposites, I think the impression is their opposite. Like, they both look good visually, but Concord seems to just be chasing trends, whereas Fragpunk is doing something a little different. And I think Fragpunk probably will have less marketing dollars behind it, but in terms of just pure gameplay, probably is going to be more interesting. Sir Gabby, thank you for the membership as well. Also Fumbles, thank you for the membership. Let's see. Matthews Media, thank you for the 5. Why does it seem like so many games announced at conferences seemed overly cartoony or had a Fortnite / Saints Row purpose aesthetic? Hate that trend. I don't know. I didn't really pick up on it. For every game that was kind of cartoony, we also had a game like Doom that looked insane and crazy. And then we also, you know, for every other cartoony game, we might have something that's a little bit more grounded and gritty, like a Star Wars Outlaws. So I'm not really seeing it. I know that games that are targeting younger audiences certainly do lean into that a bit more, but I wouldn't say that it's like a crazy trend or anything right now that I've, you know, everybody's doing it. And beyond that, like, if your art style is a little bit more forgiving, it can also help you be able to crank like frame rates and stuff. If you're not doing as crazy complicated stuff with lighting or ray trace reflections or subsurface scattering and it's all cell shaded or something, you can get better performance while still looking good within your art style, right? Let's see, where else are we? Okay, Lucas, thank you for that. Oh, just like Moist Critical, he just hates video games. Oh, you mean with Asmon Gold? Keep politics out of politics. Yeah, it sounds like it's just a joke he made, which is totally like it's a funny joke. The problem is there's a lot of people who do say stuff like that all the time, and I'm not saying that's Asmon Gold, but that's why it can sometimes be hard to tell if somebody's being serious or not when they say stuff like that, where they're like, yeah, Metal Gear needs to take the politics out of it, or I hope that they don't, like even The Witcher 3. I hope The Witcher 3 isn't political. It's like, bro, part of the broader context of the Witcher series is the politics going on inside. Like it's not this like happy-go-lucky BS. I got a very confusing message from Nikki. Anyway, so it's just, yeah, I think a lot of people just tend to lean into that stuff because I don't know, maybe it's easier to just be like, I don't like Suicide Squad, therefore it was bad because it's political. And my point is, no, it was bad for a lot of reasons. The political stuff maybe is there, but like you can point to 15,000 other things instead of having to rely on that one, you know, more controversial point, you know. Anyway, what else? Gene, thank you for the 5. My goodness. Thank you. Hey, Luke, could it be a situation that Yubi is, quote, a day late and dollar short? Because my takeaway from AC Shadows is I want to play more Ghost of Tsushima. And some people do that, will take that away from it. But even Ghost of Tsushima was like very much, like it came off as very, people, I remember when it came out, people were like, it's basically Far Cry, but with a really solid combat system set in Japan. Like it was very, very different than how people remember it now, which people are just like, no, it's like the definitive kind of Assassin's Creed type open world adventure game, but with a really good combat system and not trying to overload you with content and stuff. And I think that's generally true, but even Ghost of Tsushima started to get a little dry and old as time went by. And I think Shadows is probably honestly going to play very similar to Odyssey. Like, my impression is that it's going to be massive. There will be a ton of stuff. It might get kind of old as, you know, the dozens of hours tick by, just like any other game. But I think there's going to be a ton there. And it's not trying to do the same thing Ghost of Tsushima is doing, frankly. Yeah, people compared it to Far Cry a ton because of all of the base clearing you had to do, where you're just moving from base to base, clearing it. And each base is kind of the same, but like a little bit different. Yeah, Ghost of Tsushima is great. Nobody's saying it's not great. A game can be like Far Cry and still be good. Right now, like, there's just all these buzzwords are so hypercharged. People think if you throw out a term like Far Cry, oh, so it's terrible? It's like, no, I never said Far Cry was terrible. You know? I'm just saying structurally and in terms of how they set it up, it is very similar to Far Cry with like going, clearing bases, doing all that. My watch died. I forgot to charge it. Maybe. Charge. Yeah, I think it's charging. Okay. Anyway. No, Jor has been awake. Jor had like a 17-hour flight to get home, so he's a bit of a zombie. So I'm not pushing him. He's gonna take the day, recover a little bit. Yeah, I mean, talk about a long flight. Ugh. That's a long flight. But as for a day late, dollar short, I don't know. People sleep on how big Assassin's Creed is. People think that it's like gonna be on the same level as Ghost of Tsushima, and it's like, bro, like Joraptor pointed out, in the last 12 months they had like 30 million unique users playing Assassin's Creed games. And granted, some of those are older ones, some of those are newer ones. But that tells you there are 30 million people playing Assassin's Creed titles in a given year, when the last big game was like a spin-off title that they put out. Like, that's wild. That's wild. But like, that's the thing, is it's just a massive franchise. But a lot of the people that are big fans of it don't tend to interact much with the critical side of the gaming industry. Like, they're not going to go into a live chat that's not welcoming them or that's going to tease them for liking Assassin's Creed. So they just will not say anything, you know? But that's one of the other things, is for people to just kind of sleep on it. And I remember people were doing it with Hogwarts Legacy. People were like, nope, the game's going to flop. Not only are people trying to cancel it, but it's also like, I don't know. Yeah, don't sleep on it. It's massive. What else? Do you think people forgot about the Avatar game no one talks about? I think the people that like Avatar really like it and really enjoy Avatar. People will send me emails and DMs and stuff about it pretty regularly. Asking about DLC and stuff. They announced that DLC, so they're going to do that. But I mean, I think at this point, Ubisoft doesn't want to keep working with Disney. I think that's just a headache they don't want to deal with anymore. So I think they're just going to move on the second they get the chance, because it just seems like such a headache. And when we were there, it seemed like an interesting collaborative environment, but it also seemed like, you know, when they were describing how good it was, it seemed like they were saying, yeah, it's really cool that we can collaborate because you guys will have an idea, pitch it to us at whatever, I forget the name of the company, James Cameron's company. And then, we'll send it to like the Disney people. We'll figure out what we need to do. And then we'll send our notes back. And then you send us back the draft and we review that and then send that back to you. And they're trying to say, look, we've worked with them very closely on this. But the other way of interpreting that is we are micromanaging everything. And I think that it was kind of both. I think they were hyper involved, which was good for the fine details, but it also made development take way longer than it should have. And it kind of kept it in development hell, and it prevented them from really pushing the boundary. And so they were like, I think with Star Wars Outlaws, it seems like there's less friction. It seems like they're able to move a little bit faster and smoother, but yeah, I don't know. Okay. Yeah, UB and EA don't want to work with Disney. Well, it's tough to justify giving up like 30% of every copy sold and then going to deal with headaches during development. It's like, at what point does this make sense? It just doesn't really, Like, even if you're giving up 30% of every copy sold, you can make a game that sells this much, or you can make a game that sells a little bit less. But without paying that 30% cut, you're still making more money. Even if it's not as popular as this other thing, it's okay because you're still making more since you're not giving such a huge cut to the other people licensing it. It's why it was such a huge blunder for Bob Iger, the CEO of Disney, years ago to shut down all of their gaming stuff. Because they thought that they could just give companies like EA the chance to make Star Wars games and they would bite at it and make tons of money, and they would make tons of money and everybody would be happy, swimming in cash. The fans would be happy because they'd get great Star Wars games or whatever. But instead, the only way that they could turn a profit was by filling it with microtransactions and stuff that nobody wanted, or by selling ridiculous numbers of copies. And they might get lucky with Star Wars Outlaws because it seems like it has the potential to sell a lot of copies, but it's going to take a lot to break even. And even then, it's like Ubisoft has already said they're moving on to Division 3 after this. They're not even going to bother with a sequel. So it just is what it is, So anyway, where was I? Let's see. Continue to move down the list. Thank you, everybody, again. Alphatron, thank you for the 10. I don't understand how Xbox shows off the same trailers or more trailers for games that are coming out soon, like Avowed, or how Avowed showed third-person gameplay. I think people would have wanted to know that. There's so much that goes into these marketing campaigns. I'm sure they just did a series of surveys and did a bunch of market research and tried to figure out what people wanted to see. It seems like with Avowed, they're trying to convince people that it's much less light. It does have some darkness to it, like that original trailer showed, and it might be a little more dark and gritty than they initially showed, and that was their priority with these recent trailers. And then if you're really interested in the game, you can then look up their secondary interviews and kind of the next level of marketing underneath that's less expensive and find out more about it. But yeah, I think it's just for them. They did whatever research and they didn't think that was top of the priority. Devex, thank you for the super chat as well. What do you think about Dragon Age Veilguard gameplay? Maybe the full game going to be good, but what they showed looked like generic fantasy action RPG number 57. I have it pulled up. We will look at it because I got to see the full first hour of the game, and what we saw was very, very impressive. I think it looked really good. The first trailer they dropped, the like whatever reveal trailer for characters and stuff, looked real bad, but the actual gameplay and stuff actually pretty impressive. Will it like cater to the most hardcore RPG fans? No. Is it going to win over like whatever, Path of Exile fans. No, but it's not trying to. It's in some ways trying to appeal to the more pop culture fantasy fan base, you know? Yeah, that CGI trailer, we can all agree, was a big blunder. I don't know who greenlit that. That just set the wrong tone across the board. Reinhard, thank you for that. Oh yeah. Asmongold made the joke. Twitter took him out of context. They clipped just a few seconds of it. Yeah, I'm not familiar with the clip off of Twitter, but yeah, if he's just telling a joke about Metal Gear being political, that is kind of funny. Grayson, thank you for the 5. As an Overwatch fan for the lore, I wonder if Xbox is even considering investing in that franchise. Did you hear anything about SGF? Same with Halo. Heard nothing about Halo. Heard nothing about Overwatch. Just nothing. I mean, there were the people wearing the shirts and stuff, so there might have been devs there, but yeah, if they are working on stuff, it's a long ways out. I don't think Overwatch 2 is going to get like a sequel or anything. I think they're just going to keep pumping out stuff for it. And then as for everything else, like with Halo, I don't think they even know what they're doing with Halo. Doesn't seem like it. So, you know, what are we going to do? The Outsider Jess, thank you also for the membership. Appreciate you. Blake, thank you for the 5 as well. They need to be consistent with the tone of Avowed because I have no clue what the game is actually going to be like. It's different every trailer. Yeah, I think the biggest thing with Avowed is they just started showing it really dark and gritty, and with that like initial announcement trailer, which was super exciting. And then they went and did the like next reveal trailers, and it was super like colorful and artsy fartsy, which again is fine, but it didn't match the announcement trailer, so people were confused, like what is this, the same game? Apparently it is. And then now they're going back and forth, and it just seems like they can't really figure out what they're doing. So I agree, they need to kind of unify the message a little bit. Maybe do a big trailer where they show like all the different biomes and explain how it all ties together. Do something like that, because right now it does seem like they just are going back and forth. Miss my super chat, Jack. I don't see one in my list from a Jack. It has the big list of all the super chats that have come in and like actually cleared. So I don't see anything. If you put the message in chat, I can see it again. But yeah, I don't have any like processed super chats from a Jack on my list for some reason. Let's see, where else was I? Oh yeah, and lastly, Ducks. Thank you for that. Only found you a week ago, but feel like you're a decent part of my day. Awesome, dude. Keep it up. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate you. Thank you. You're an awesome part of my day too. What did Sven say? He was like a little I don't know how to put it, like standoffish. I think like he had to know that he was going to get swarmed by people at SGF, right? Like there's no way he didn't know that. But he did kind of act a little bit like, oh, sure, yeah, let's take a photo. Like I think he was a little surprised. I was like the first one up on top of that happy hour too, so he was just up there. Like he was on a big patio deck with his coworker here, who I'm sure he's a very important person. I'm just not familiar with his name, but he was just up there, and then we're like, oh my god, it's Fed. We got to talk to him. So we went and said hi and everything, and it was cool. It was cool to see him. Let's see. Dude's a celebrity now. Dude, for real. You don't mess with him. Jacko, sorry I saw it on screen. Oh, did it go? Oh, was it like a through Streamlabs maybe? Because if it's processed like a super chat, it should pop up in that list. If it's processed like a tip, then it'll show up in a different list, and that could be why you saw it on screen and then it didn't show up in that list. History. Oh yeah, I think this is it. Here it is. Okay, I see it, my friend. Thank you for the 5. It was a tip. That's why it went through that way. Xbox Showcase was actually great, but I found the fact that almost none of the games releasing in the next 6 months got a release date. Your thoughts? Yeah, I mean, they're trying. I'm sure they pulled some stuff forward because they're trying to get people hyped and to be like, yeah, the future of Xbox is bright. That's their goal, especially after a kind of rough start to the year. And I think they succeeded with it. And in some ways, the showcase demonstrated just how quickly people will move on and forget about drama when they see good games. You know, people just tune it out. Okay. So let's talk about Dragon Age real quick. Let's talk about Dragon Age. I feel like we need to mention this. Yeah, Master Predator. Let's talk about this. Yeah, we'll look at the full Xbox showcase here in a minute. So Dragon Age is interesting. So this initial trailer dropped during the Xbox showcase on the 9th. And what was interesting is they had started doing some like previews and trailers for some people at SGF before this. And I believe on the 8th, people had already seen it and been looking at it. And so people had seen this at SGF and were like, why are they framing it this way? Like, why are they trying to make it like, just what are we doing? Because the trailer is mostly like in-game, from what I can tell at least. Game engine footage, not all images appear in game. Yeah, so some camera angles will be changed and stuff. But graphically, this is what the game looks like in cutscenes and stuff. It's very, very graphically impressive. They're really cranking the dials. But you see, they've got everything framed around these big like splash screens and the title screens and everything. And then like the witty, sassy pose. And then this was very Overwatchy.
We're going into the Fade, aren't we?
And digging up a lot of buried secrets.
What about Darkspawn?
We're gonna get copyright struck, aren't we? So they showed this stuff and it just seemed to be tonally a little different than people were expecting, because the visuals are pretty dark, I would say, at least. Like, there's people getting killed and beaten up everywhere. But then the music choice is just a little bit different. The editing is much more like, you know, upbeat and everything. It's just very different than what I was expecting to see. And so when we were at SGF, people were saying, yeah, the trailer, I don't think that trailer did a good job of showing what we saw. And I hadn't seen it at that point. I was like, I mean, I don't know. It's maybe. But then we saw it behind closed doors. So what we saw was basically this sequence of gameplay where they gave us, like, they showed us the character creator, how you set up your character with backstories, how you allocate, you know, your different, whatever your priorities are. If you're trying to role play as like a scoundrel, if you're trying to role play as somebody who's like an orphan or whatever. And then they showed us this is kind of where the game kicks off, and they walk through here. And so we got this same sequence, it actually running in real time. They were actually playing it in real time. We could say, hey, can you look at that? And they would turn the camera and look at that closer. You know, it was actually running in real time. So this is what it looks like. It's not a fake demo or anything. Beyond that, though, you know, once we actually got into it, one thing that's important to note is that this is the opening hour. Almost every game, the opening hour is like the most scripted, the most linear. So I know some people are like, this is supposed to be an RPG. It's very linear. It's like, yeah, but it's also a tutorial. It's like complaining that you don't have the option to stay in the dream as Geralt during the opening of The Witcher 3. It's like, no, they're trying to set stuff up. You're on more train tracks while they're setting things up. but that's just to be expected. So I don't think it's fair to like critique it from that vantage point, because that's true of pretty much every game, is that it's going to be very, very scripted and linear while they're setting things up. Beyond that, I think the character designs look broadly pretty good. The hair, they actually specifically mentioned during the character creator section, they're like, we got a lot of crap. They didn't say it that way. They said, we got a lot of constructive feedback. Everybody chuckles about the hair in Dragon Age Inquisition. And so we really made a point of making sure that it was not just serviceable this time around, but that we had like industry leading tech when it came to hair and hair physics and everything else. And so they actually, I think, delivered. It looks very, very good. In terms of cutscenes and stuff, they're very fluid. They smoothly transition for the most part from like actual cutscene to gameplay. There's a couple times where it'll do like a fade to black and then transition to gameplay, like right there. But then there's other times, like back a little bit before this, after they're looking out over this spot. Is it this one? Right here, where it transitions smoothly to gameplay. So it seems purely artistic. It's not like they have to physically fade to black every time there's a cutscene. So it seems to be like just really high production value. It seems like they've really cranked the knobs. There's no question there. They also mentioned this. So during our demo, they got to this point and they started firing these ranged attacks. And they said, so we know some players want more of a challenging combat. We have all sorts of different difficulty scaling options. And then we also want to be able to encourage more immersion if you see fit. So if you don't like these visual indicators saying when something's coming, what direction it will be coming and stuff like that, there is an option to turn that off in the settings so that you can just rely purely on sound or visuals for when you should be dodging something, which is nice to hear. I mean, that's nice to hear. Yeah, more options. Beyond that, it seems to be pretty standard affair as far as action games are concerned. The combat is pretty straightforward. So one thing that they're going to do is you're going to be able to slot in different abilities. So the bottom row, my understanding, is for the player character. The left row will be for your first companion. The top row will be for a second companion, and the right will be for a third. So you can actually kind of pop abilities for them to have them do stuff based on what they've unlocked as a companion for you. So you'll be able to go in there and kind of hotkey this stuff in. This is, of course, on controller. I don't know if it's different on PC. Maybe on PC, this is all, can be routed to hotkeys and stuff. He did say there were shortcuts for using them faster. So I don't know. They might have said only 2. I have seen a screenshot where something was up here. Maybe there are further abilities for the player, but either way, this will not be this empty. In this demo, there's like 1 ability and that's it, because it's the tutorial. When the game is like actually further along, I imagine that, all of this is filled with different abilities that you can pop. But yeah, if it's only 2 companions or whatever, then that would be, 1 on either side. You're on the top and bottom. They also specifically said that they're like, yeah, it was important for us to give you the chance to pause the game and the combat by pulling up this wheel, which I thought was an interesting choice. Just because like a lot of games nowadays want to keep you in the action and keep you stressed. So they will have it. So you pull up this menu and it kind of slows down the action a little bit. Or like it just won't pause it at all. It'll just stay in real time. But, they said specifically, yeah, we wanted to pause it, giving you the chance to really consider what you want to do. And I don't know if that's because there's going to be more complicated abilities to pop later or what, but we'll see. One of the other things you'll notice about this combat as we play it out, it seems like all of the enemies are specifically aggroed on the player. So it doesn't seem like there's much aggression, if any, ever like going towards the companions. Even that right there, where you are far away from Harding This guy you'd think maybe is attacking Harding. It looks like he turns to her, but then he's popping an orb that shoots towards you. But she's still dodging out of the way. So maybe there's certain enemy types that only aggro towards the player, or maybe the combat is actually built in a way where all the enemies are only ever aggroed on you, and there's no such thing as like pulling aggro. Or maybe that's a separate ability you have to unlock, where it's like, yeah, if you want Harding to pull aggro, you have to use this ability on the wheel or something like that. Yeah. Yeah, they mentioned you could combo abilities with your companions as well. Yeah, they said that during our thing, and I didn't really know what that meant. They said, yeah, some abilities are going to tie together with others. And I think what that probably means is like if you freeze an enemy, you can then use a blast attack ability from another hero or companion to then break it apart or something, or deal mass damage or whatever else. Which is cool. Like that's cool to see. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of ways to kind of tie those different things together. I'm mainly interested in how all of these things work together. Like if you have one character that, you know, has certain ways of synergizing with one companion or with a couple of others, you know, it's that nuance where I think the game could see its combat system raise in complexity a lot. But looking at this gameplay, I would just fear that this is going to end up just being kind of like a bit button mashy, or turn into like Hogwarts Legacy style combat, which is serviceable again. But where it's basically just button mash, use all of your abilities, button mash, use all of your abilities, button mash, use all of your abilities. And like that's again serviceable. You can get a good 8 out of 10 game that way, as long as it's engaging enough that it tickles your monkey brain and keeps you engaged. But like if somebody's looking for some wild combat combos or crazy boss fights, I'm not sure if you'll get it during moment-to-moment gameplay here. Where we did see the combat take a spike was later on here against one of the bosses. So they started introducing these shields where some shields are weak, so the blue ones are weak to ranged attacks, the yellow are weak to heavy attacks. So there's certain types, again, like Hogwarts Legacy, there's certain types of attacks you need to do against these enemies to break their shields and make them vulnerable to actually getting downed. And that's kind of the surprising thing, is how many things here seemed similar to Hogwarts Legacy in broader structure. But you can see here, he's got a bunch of AoE attacks. He's much more aggressive. This seems much more difficult. And this was one of those instances where you could see the guy that was playing the game, who I think they said was a quest designer, I want to say. The guy that was leading and like talking up next to the TV when we were watching it, he was the creative director of the game. But I think the guy playing was a quest designer or something, or maybe PR. I don't remember what he said. Anyway, you could tell he started to like actually struggle at this point. This fight was actually challenging even for somebody that had played the game presumably a lot, and done this specific fight dozens of times over the course of the week that we were there. So very familiar. It seemed like it could actually like get tricky. Oh, excuse me. Still recovering. But from that, then we go in, there's more cutscenes and stuff. And again, it's just kind of tough to get an idea of the actual moment-to-moment balance, because this is the first hour. But it was super smooth. Like I said, we saw the full hour. No crashes, no hitching, no problems. It was crazy polished for something that is still like probably 6 months away. All they would say is fall of 2024. And we were like, month? And then he said, yeah, the month of fall 2024. And that was it. So I don't really know. What was cool is when there were options like this given to the player, they actually let us vote by show of hands on which option we chose. And he said during one of these branching options, he said, we are now at the point where we are just polishing. So all of these branching options work, and they go on different paths and everything. It's up to you. In this case, you get railroaded. So you see, Celis needs someone to sell him another option to help him justify changing his mind. This is what Varric says. So you can say this is a mistake and challenge it. Or you can say you can do it. If you say you can do it, he'll just go off and then confront Solis, right? If you say this is a mistake, he's still going to do it. Again, like a lot of games will do this where they kind of give you the option to try and convince somebody else. The reason Baldur's Gate 3 was so remarkable is because they would just let you roll for it. And if you got like a DC 30 check, there was probably a way where you could convince him not to interrupt. And the game just ends early and the credits roll, kind of like those secret endings, like for Far Cry or something. Like little Easter egg if you roll in that 20. Ooh. But in this case, again, this is more like pop. I would say like pop fantasy. It's not trying to be Baldur's Gate 3. And I think, this was my broader takeaway from this demo. I said on our podcast with Joe Raptor last week, before the showcases and before all of this, I said this game could be big if, for one, it's decent or good. That's, of course, necessary. But also, they desperately need to differentiate themselves from Baldur's Gate. If it comes off as Baldur's Gate Light and it's like a similar kind of top-down view, lots of party management and busy work that way, like they're not going to do it better than Baldur's Gate did, in my opinion. So don't try to take on the king at his own game. And instead, they seemingly are doing something much different. And I think that this is different enough from Baldur's Gate. It won't be judged 1-to-1 against that. And I think that that is the best thing for it, because that was that was always going to be a losing fight. I think the types of people that this appeals to are the ones looking for something a little bit more lighthearted is a bad way of saying it, but something a little bit more flashy, something that's not crushingly difficult when it comes to like action RPG elements. Because I know some people eat it up. Some people love having all the micromanagement of, okay, what gems do I have equipped? And I need to take this and I need to have this gem torn down and I'm going to craft this other thing. And this is going to give me a buff here. And I'm going to go and I'm going to coat my sword in this oil to take on this type of monster. Some people eat that up and love it. Others hate it and find it needlessly tedious and blah blah blah. And I'm like, at least they're not trying to do everything for everybody. It might not be for you, but at least it appeals to a certain demographic, right? But beyond this, I mean, everything else that they show here, I've asked a couple of my friends, and my wife is of course a hardcore Dragon Age fan. She's played all of them. Origins is of course her favorite. And I asked her, like, what do you think as a fan? And she's not like the action RPG fan. She's in it for the lore, she's in it for the stories and for the characters. And she is all on board. She thinks this looks awesome. And at the end of the day, that's all that really matters. Like, if it's not appealing to the hardcore fan base or crowd, okay, that's fine. They're hoping to make it up with some other people, maybe some older fans, and then a lot of new fans who have never played the games before and just want to try it out. And I think this is going to be successful in that regard. It looks good, it's polished, and it seems to be doing everything it needs to do. Now, this doesn't mean you should go out and pre-order, because you should never pre-order, just to be clear. But this is a very good foundation to have laid. After that first trailer, I was like, oh no. I don't think we all were. We were like, oh God. But after this gameplay, I'm much more confident in their abilities. And having sat in the room with the guy, like the creative director of the game, for an hour as he's kind of explaining the reasons behind certain design choices and what they're trying to do and their goals and stuff, I'm much more confident in what they're doing here. It's not going to make everybody happy. Some people are still going to freak out about it because that's just what gaming is now. But I think that a lot of people are still going to really like what they've done here. But time will tell if they can get it across the finish line. The fact that they are now seemingly purely in polish phase, they're not trying to do anything else right now, they are just polishing, is a good sign, because there were other games we saw that are supposed to be out probably sooner than Dragon Age that I actually got to play that were straight up like bad. So to see that this is in a good spot is encouraging. Again, it's not going to be for everybody, but I almost prefer that, because games that try to be everything to everybody end up failing and are often garbage. So to see that they are trying to do something a little bit more unique, and that appeals to, maybe not unique, seeing that they're trying to do something that appeals to this fan base and not all these others, I think is good, because it shows that they're not trying to be everything to everybody. So we'll see. There's going to be some people that hate on it or hate it. That's fine. Like, cool, good for you. You don't have to buy it. Like, just don't buy it. Like, I think it's one of the great things about gaming is that there's a lot of options out there. We're at a buffet and there's a lot of stuff out there for you to put on your plate. Just because you don't like clam chowder doesn't mean that you should go to every table and then tease people who are eating clam chowder. You know, that doesn't make you interesting. It makes you an asshole. And I think sometimes the lines can get blurred. I don't expect Dragon Age to appeal to a hardcore crowd. I expect it to appeal to the same types of people, frankly, that like Hogwarts Legacy, for example. And like, really, that was my takeaway from the big session we got, was that there's a lot of inspiration here from Hogwarts Legacy, and a lot of the things I'm like, okay. And we saw that worked well. Like, not every game needs to try to have like crazy action RPG mechanics and stuff. Not every game needs to be Elden Ring. Like, sometimes you can make something that's induces less of a headache, you know? Yeah, JP, you're an old school fan of Dragon Age, been playing since 2009, and I don't like what I saw. That's great. I mean, it's not great. That's a bummer. But I think everybody's stance is that, at least on the dev team, I've seen some of them react to some negative reactions on X or Twitter or whatever. And they've been like, yep, well, we just encourage you to keep an eye on it because we think we can convince you by the time the game releases. Just don't count us out. Don't dismiss us yet. Let us show you the rest of what we've got. So, yeah, they clearly did not go the route of trying to do like Origins again. They're clearly doing Hogwarts, Hogwarts inspired. But not even that, because Hogwarts, came out well into development of this. Like, all of this stuff was kind of already established. But I think it's more of an indication that they're trying to follow the more modern trends of where these open world games are, and where a lot of those more casual gamers and players are. And Hogwarts did a really good job of it, obviously, because they've sold so many copies. But they're also part of a huge franchise. And then they're going to try to appeal to a similar crowd with this, it seems. But then again, we also haven't seen some of the other stuff. It could be that once they get into the open world exploration and some of the side questing and stuff, maybe this starts to win some of those more hardcore fans over. It's just going to be a matter of waiting and seeing, right? So, anyway. Okay. Let's do. Everybody's been asking. We've got to talk about it. We got to talk about it, right? We got to talk about it. No, talking about. Oh, I guess first I should catch up on super chats and things. Let's see. Russell, thank you for the super chat. Do you think gameplay loop wise, they see Shadows will be the same as Valhalla or somewhere between like Mirage and Valhalla combined? My understanding, for what it's worth, is that it's much more Odyssey. Like, it sounds like they're not too thrilled with the way Valhalla was structured, this particular team at least. So they're leaning much more on the way that Odyssey was set up instead of like Valhalla versus Mirage or anything. Which makes sense. It's a different team than did Mirage, and there's always been kind of butting heads between these two teams because the one team will make like Syndicate while the other team is making like Black Flag. So it's just, they're different groups trying to do different things, but I don't think it's going to be that similar to Valhalla. It will be probably in terms of scale. They'll have some of those like honestly monetizable things like your camp. I forget what they called it, but there's like going to be a camp basically where you can like customize it and get spies that are working for you, similar to like the mercenary system and all that. It's going to be interesting. But yeah, I think it's much more hideout. That's what they called it. Yeah, hideout. There's going to be a lot more Odyssey DNA in this than Valhalla DLC, I think. That would be my expectation. JR, thank you for that. Hey, Luke, have you seen / played any of Final Shape? So nice to see Bungie back at their best and the entire Destiny 2 community loving the expansion. Might even be the best one ever in my opinion. Do you have any thoughts on Codename Frontiers will be? I don't know anything about Codename Frontiers, so I won't pretend to know. But I have seen the reactions have been really, really positive, and frankly, Bungie needed it. They really, really needed a W, because if they blew this, straight up, like Sony probably was just going to take over the company and gut them, turn them into a like support studio. So I think it's really good that they've got a W finally. I just hope that it's turning and making some money for them as well, because that's all that really matters when it comes to Sony potentially taking them over. They had to hit revenue targets, and if they aren't hitting revenue targets, it can be received well, but if they're not making money, Sony still takes them over completely. So it's just going to be it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, frankly. But I hope they're making some cash. That's maybe another point, is if you want them to remain independent and you don't want PlayStation execs to take it over, like, support it financially. I don't know how they have it set up monetizable or in terms of monetization, but yeah, if you like it, support it, because that's the only way that they stay independent, is if they're making that cash money. And then Reinhardt, thank you for the 2. The game is not open world. They confirmed it. Okay, if they actually confirmed it, they were super coy in our demo session. We were like, is it fully like open-ended where you can just kind of go wherever you want in the world? The lady behind me asked the question. I don't know who she was, but it seemed to be a hardcore Dragon Age fan. She was like giggling and gasping every time there was like a recurring character that showed up. But yeah, she asked the question if it was open world, or however she phrased it. I think she phrased it as like, are we freely open to explore anywhere we want, or something like that? And they were just like, well, we're going to reveal more about what comes later in due time. Yeah, and they kind of bounced around it. Because they were probably just told, only talk about this demo. Don't say anything else about anything else. Which, like, I get it's easier to kind of not spill details you shouldn't spill if you do it that way. But yeah, if they've actually confirmed that, then that's interesting to hear. Because it was weird they wouldn't just say, It's a little weird. But anyway. And Blake, thank you for that. The combat needs work. Yasuke looked like an action figures fighting and floating. The parry system looked abysmal, in my opinion. These are so tough to tell, like, just through footage. That's why I'm waiting till I see or actually get my hands on it. I think what we saw with AC Shadows looked good, but Yasuke specifically, I think his combat is going to matter a lot on how it feels. Because I agree, it looked like the parries were really, really forgiving. But again, that could also just be that they lowered the difficulty for the sake of the demo to make it so they could get through it without dying or getting caught up on something. So it's kind of hard to gauge. Let's see. But I will say, Ubisoft does have a history of greatly improving stuff. There was one instance, I think it was either Odyssey or Valhalla, where they showed a clip of one of the attack animations when you were in the water. I think it was Odyssey, maybe. You were like swimming down, and then they showed one of the attack animations that would happen if you were in the water and like fighting off a shark that was attacking you. And people made fun of it and said that animation looks ridiculous. Like, you're in the water and she's doing like 3 spin moves. Like, it just doesn't look right. Water doesn't work like that, you know? And people told them that, and they fixed it. They changed it. So I would be pretty confident if the feedback around certain animations is negative, or they have to figure stuff out, they would, I think they can do it. So I wouldn't stress too much. They have a history of polishing stuff a lot in the lead up to launch. But anyway, news segment. Okay. So people have been asking me, what was the most, let me take that from the top. People have been asking me, Luke, baby darling, what was the most disappointing game you saw at SGF? And frankly, like, we only went and saw stuff that we were confident was going to be good, because our schedules are so tight. Like, we didn't want to waste any time seeing something we weren't interested in, right? Or that we wouldn't get content out of. And so we were pretty good with it. Pretty much everything we saw and got our hands on ended up being pretty impressive. Even some that I was iffy on, like Replaced. Replaced is that super, super cool, in terms of art style, Replaced game. Yeah, you remember this? It's like got the really cool, like 2.5D, but also 8-bit art style. It's just super, super cool looking. I played this for about half an hour, and I thought it was really good. Like, I really liked it. The audio, like the music was fantastic. The world building was super, super well done. It was just fascinating to see. Combat was pretty good. It was just good. Like, it was just was really, really solid. Really, really solid. I saw somebody type in Nawe, and so I was like, really solid. But like, even games like that I was a little iffy on ended up being really, really good. But one that I tried, and I have a little selfie I took. Where's the selfie? Somewhere. Here it is. It was like one of the first things we did, if not the first thing we did. I took a selfie in front of the screen because we weren't allowed to record gameplay, but actually trying Stalker 2. And I will be real, it was, in my humble opinion, the worst thing we tried at the show. And that's a bummer, because I was really rooting for them. But we tried that on, what, Thursday? No, Friday. We tried that Friday. And then the Xbox showcase happened a day or two later, right? What we tried, and this trailer don't even look like the same game. Now, part of it is that the demo we tried was like a screen tearing simulator. It was ridiculous. It was real bad. At one point while I was playing, I remember a guy walked back behind me, like was walking past, looked at the screen as I was playing and went, woof. Like that bad. That even people who were like trying to put on a good face were like, oh man, oh. Now, some of the cutscenes were fine. They would look good, like nothing crazy. But I remember the textures were all really, really flat. The like actual encounter design was quite just uninteresting. Like there might be like an enemy over there. But like it just didn't come together. It felt honestly like a 2013 game that I was playing through backwards compatibility. The shooting wasn't that great. Granted, I was playing on controller. It's how they had it set up at that time. So that could be part of it, but it just did not come together for me. And it was also really unclear with little stuff like UI. Like you would just drop dead and you weren't sure why. And then you come to find out, oh, it's because there's like this ball of lightning with like a bunch of smaller balls of lightning, or like there's a radiation thing that's killing you. But it was weird because like I thought you could visually see where like balls of lightning were. This is going to be easier if I just get out the good old MS Paint, right? This is just going to be easier. So it would be something like this. So there's little balls of lightning and there's something you set up here in the middle. Okay. So you set up this scanner here in the middle, and then all around it are little bitty, like, they're little bitty like balls of lightning, right? And I thought you could just walk through the path that these balls of lightning made to get to the thing inside, or maybe it's like this, to then disarm it. So if you are the player, you like are over here, we'll do P for player, and you like walk through the gaps to get over here to pick up this scanner and then walk back out and continue on through the rest of the mission. It didn't work that way for some reason, whether it was intentional or not. You had to use sound. So you're holding your little like whatever Geiger counter meter thing, and it's making beeping sounds. And as you're walking, this way, the beeping might get really loud. And beep, 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 and then you walk over here and it gets quieter. Beep, 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 beep. And you would think you get close to this ball of lightning, it would start beeping loud again, but it wouldn't. And you could walk through it and be fine. So you couldn't rely on your sight. You had to rely on the audio, even though it seemed to directly contradict what was visually in front of you. Just weird little stuff like that, just little stuff that you wouldn't think would even be an issue. But some people are like, well, I like it because it makes you rethink these encounters and you don't assume anything. It's like, yeah, I guess. But part of the reason that like players would assume you can walk around the balls of lightning is because most people are trained by playing these games to associate the visual element with danger. And so they are basically conditioned to avoid the physical manifestation of that danger, and therefore they'll be safe and able to accomplish the objective. But instead, you have to ignore the visual indication, and contrary to common sense, you walk through it, the thing that looks to be dangerous, and as long as the sound is okay, you're fine. And for me, I still don't know if that was working the way they meant it to. Maybe it might be the case that this blue ball was not supposed to be there. It may be the case that this was not supposed to spawn there, or maybe the whole thing was supposed to be rotated, so there was just a clear path here. But that's part of the problem, is I don't know. I can't tell if it was a bug or if it was working the way that they wanted it to. And when that's something you're playing that's due out in like September, within a few months, I think, it just doesn't work for me. You know, it's actively frustrating. And when you pair with a bunch of other stuff, like the combat wasn't very good, like the guns weren't very responsive. It again just felt very outdated. The encounter and mission design was very, very bland, where it was literally like, okay, you walk through this door into a field, and then you're gonna walk through the field and you're gonna find 3 enemies that you shoot dead quickly with some kind of brain dead AI. They just kind of stand there and take it. Then you move on over here and you set up your scanner with all the little blue orbs of death that you can walk through for some reason, and you'll be fine. But if you listen, you can get through it safely. And then after you do that, you continue on and walk through the next door, where you do the same thing again, but this time maybe a little cutscene plays before. And it just again played like a 2013 backwards compatibility title. And then I saw this trailer. And this trailer, I was like, I want to play that game. Like, this looks interesting. This trailer's actually really good, right? Like, I want to fight that guy and these cool god rays. We didn't see anything like that. We were playing in a night level. I want to see that. So I'm kind of left conflicted, because on the one hand, like, that looks sick. On the one hand, this might be one of those games that just demos poorly. Maybe the demo that they've set up is just bad, or is like a year old. Who knows? Maybe it's the same demo that they brought to Gamescom last year and they just didn't change it because they're so focused on getting the game ready for launch later this year. That could be it. It could be something as simple and stupid as they just didn't update the demo and thought that it was fine and didn't realize it's actually doing harm to public perception of the game. Or the worst possible, the worst possible outcome is that the game is as bad as I experienced it to be, and these trailers are not indicative of the final quality, right? That's the worst case scenario. Second to worst case, or maybe, I don't know, I'm losing track. Maybe it is that the game is actually this good as you see on screen here, and it just demos poorly, or we were playing the worst part of it and for some reason they picked that part to show us. I'm genuinely not sure. I really don't know. But what I do know is what we played looked and felt almost nothing like what we're seeing on screen here. What we did was this stuff, where you're walking around with a meter, listening for beeps to get to like a certain spot to do something, and then you move on and just do that 4 times, you know. And for that, it was just frustrating, because normally, maybe it was a prank. Normally, studios give you like the best slice of their game to sell you on it. Like, we saw a part of the Dragon Age demo that you guys didn't see that happened a minute or two after the that public gameplay trailer cut off. So I know something you don't. But like, we saw some cool stuff that we're not even going to share because it's all spoilerific and kind of cool, but we're just not going to tell you. But there was enough of that they had extra. They could tell you, yeah, you don't share that because people are going to lose their minds, right? But with this, like, it seems like they tailor-made the demo to just not show you any of the cool stuff and show you the worst elements of it, which is, again, worrying, because normally every studio that ever has a game to demo with media ever is going to show you the best that they have. They're not going to start with the worst. So maybe it comes together. Maybe they figure it out. I'm not sure. But what I do know is that what we played didn't look or play anything like that trailer they dropped at the Xbox showcase. And it's either because the game isn't like that trailer and it's like what we played, or for some reason the demos they're giving to media are just hilariously bad and they're keeping the game super secret or something. I don't know. What was combat like? It was like you walk into a field and there's 3 guys there. You shoot at one of them. The other guys turn around and look at you. And then you shoot them. And then it's over. Or maybe you get jumped by like an invisible creature that you listen for. And that was initially kind of cool. But then it glitches and gets stuck in a tree. And then you just shoot it and it dies. You know? Like, it just doesn't come together. So, anyway, we're going to do the next segment here in a second where I want to look at Doom. Nikki's calling me real quick. I think she's shopping for groceries for Ori's first birthday party on Friday. So, I'm going to take this real quick. Much love. I'll be right back. Don't worry. Okay, I'm back. Do 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 Okay. If he was a real streamer, he would leave the chair. He'd leave the chair on screen with some random YouTube video play. Yeah, guys, I've got to go to a dentist appointment for a few hours. So I'm just gonna start playing The Office, and I'll just leave the stream going. Don't worry. Oh man. So just so everybody knows, we don't do any all caps because it gives me a headache and I don't like reading it. So we'll just try to keep all caps at a minimum, okay? Like for a few words, it's fine. When you're writing paragraphs in all caps, it's like, okay, can we chill? You know? Okay, let's do this real quick. And then I've got to go help Nikki put the boys down. News segment. So, we got an announcement that was rumored for a while. Like we all kind of saw this coming. There's no like huge surprise here, but I think it looks way better than I was expecting. Like, again, we all knew we were going to get a new Doom. It had been rumored like crazy. But they're actually saying it's in-game footage. They specify that. They're like, yeah, what you're seeing. Again, this is IGN, so the bit rate's really oddly low for some reason. But what we had heard was that it was like a medieval-inspired Doom game, and nobody knew what that meant. We're like, so more melee weapons? Is like no more sci-fi? What is it like? What does that even mean? And it's still like some sci-fi stuff, but it seems like they are leaning more into giving you a shield and maybe an axe, and then you can see he's got like the big fur cape and everything, and it's just very, very Norse themed. And graphically, I mean, it's ridiculous. It looks insane. Like, look at that. He just blew off half of the dude's body. Like, look at that. So they have like a dynamic gore system that allows you to shoot off chunks of monsters, which is horrifying and pretty badass. This weapon's crazy. It takes skulls, grinds them up into ammo. Like, it's the most Doom thing ever. Yeah, the chainsaw shield that chews up through people. Like, it's ridiculous, dude. They have been cooking. Look at that. That's crazy. This is one of the, I mean, I've told you guys before, I struggle with id Tech games for whatever reason. They make me super motion sick. In the past, they just always have. And it sucks because I love this kind of stuff. You know, I eat up Doom. Like, look at that. Come on, dude. I eat this stuff up. The fast-paced shooters, high production value stuff. I love it. I just always struggle playing with them because they just, after 30 minutes or so, sometimes even just 20, I feel like a lot of people feel when they use VR for extended periods of time, like I get sweaty, hot, and miserable. Like, it just doesn't work for me. My brain doesn't like it. But for this, like, I've got to figure something out. Maybe I just go to the doctor, get a prescription to just turn into a vegetable, but a vegetable that can play this, because I want it. I don't want to not play it because it'll make me EP or sicky, you know? And then there's just a mech. He has a mech. There's a mount. You can fly a dragon dinosaur dog. Like, this is outrageous. Blah, blah, blah. Coming next year. It just looks, I mean, also big boss fights with this monster, the mech fights, like, that's the player character and that's the boss you'll be fighting. Like, I am so in. You're also seemingly inside the rib cage of a giant monster, which presumably you'll also get to see at some point. Not dead. You'll see the living variant. It just gets me excited. Like, they've done a great job. Done a great job. Is the FOV? I think what it is, somebody described it to me. They said it was a mixture of, you have to tweak the FOV. It's head bob stuff, which can throw people off. They said also some post-processing can trigger it for people. And so there's different things I think I could do. And maybe what it is it's like I can't play it on like a big screen. Maybe I have to play it on a smaller screen or seated farther away or something. But like, you better believe I'm going to try to figure out how to fix it. Because man, when next year, could you speculate? I think the fact that all these companies are just saying 2025 means that they have a little bit of flexibility, because I think they all are trying to wrap it up and get it to where it needs to be, but they don't want to announce something too early. They don't want to announce it for like March, but then it gets delayed because they run into some problem when fixing bugs. Because that happens where you'll be fixing a bug and then it's like, we fixed it, but we figured out the reason for it was because of this other thing that we need to fix, because if we don't fix it, everything else will break. So we found the solution to this little problem and it made us realize we have a bigger problem. And then all this other stuff cascades down. And you just don't know what you don't know. You don't know if there's going to be something like that until you get there. So they usually like to keep a little bit of a bubble around the launch date until they're really confident they can release in that window. And you're seeing it even now, like for Dragon Age, the Veilguard, they are saying fall of 2024. They won't even say month. They're saying fall. And November, I think, is not a good month for that because it's already cram-packed with some big games. So it's like October makes the most sense. Why aren't they announcing it for October? I think it's because they are just worried that they're going to run into one of those problems and then have to delay it to like December, which isn't ideal, or like January, February. So instead, they're just keeping it very wide open. And fingers crossed they can get stuff wrapped up when they need to. But I really think next year is just going to be crazy. Like this year already, we're going to have some good stuff by the end of the year. But next year is going to be just pure chaos. Tell you what. Pure chaos. What else did we have? Sorry, I've got the landscaping guys out there working on stuff. So yeah, I'm thoroughly excited for Doom. I think it looks awesome. I saw some people were like, "Oh no, they're just trying to do like change stuff for the sake of changing it." It's like, no, bro, it looks fire. It looks fire. Yeah. Better than 2023, you think? Well, so 2025 is going to be the year of blockbusters. That doesn't necessarily mean it will be the year of like critically acclaimed titles. 2023 was an amazing year for critically acclaimed stuff. So like the 10 out of 10 score games, where we had a lot of those and a lot of also big games at the same time. But like 2025 is going to be the year of like GTA 6. It's going to be the year of, Doom, as we just established. Like there's just a lot of big stuff that will be dropping allegedly sometime next year. Presumably we even see stuff we haven't seen announced yet, like Ghost of Tsushima 2. That's supposed to be there. It's also supposed to be, exactly, Beer's your friend, it's supposed to be the year of the next gen consoles. So allegedly we're seeing those, and we'll see games push the graphical boundary that way. So I think there's going to be a lot. Phantom Blade, yup. South of Midnight, Fable. So we'll see how it all shapes up, but I'm pretty optimistic. We will have a lot to play next year. Even this year, we're going to get a lot of stuff. We got Indiana Jones still. We've got Of course, now Dragon Age, Star Wars Outlaws, AC Shadows. What else do we have this year? Space Marine 2. Oh, Black Myth Wukong. Yeah, in August. You're right. We got that. You gonna cover it? Yeah, I'd like to. I'd like to. The game, I mean, it's looked great since the first moment they showed it, so I'm excited to see how it actually plays. Oh, is Avowed still this year? Oh. Crimson Desert? Yeah, I gotta see more of that. I need to see more of that. Luke, do you think overall Dragon Age Veilguard will be a big hit for BioWare? I don't know what they would consider to be a big hit. Like, from what I saw, I don't think outlets will be giving it like 10 out of 10 scores or anything. It doesn't have that vibe to it. That's just a gut check. That's not me saying I know something I don't. I just don't think it has that vibe of like 10 out of 10 energy. You know, like you see a trailer for a Naughty Dog game and you're like, oh yeah, this is going to be some people's game of the year. You know, I don't get that vibe beyond the core fan base. Like I think some Dragon Age fans will, you know, it'll be their favorite game, but I do think it probably lands similar in scores to like a Hogwarts Legacy. I think it's probably like a B plus. I don't expect the combat to be super deep. I don't expect the role play to be super intense or deep, but I expect it to be kind of a flashy, fun adventure that's not too serious. And again, for lack of a better term, I'm just like, pop. It's like pop fantasy. It's not trying to do anything crazy unique. I guess, the biggest game of the year that we're going to be getting. How could I have forgotten? Concord. We got that coming. So, yeah, we're going to be drowning in videos on that. You better believe it. Yeah, but how could I have forgotten? How could I have spaced such a crucial release? Oh, man. Oh, jeez. Expedition 33. I think it looks awesome. I think it looked great. Oh yeah, the other Game of the Year contender, Killer Bean. Yeah, that looks like it's gonna be really fun. I'm excited for that one too. Ugh. Dragon Age looked like Fable, and Fable looked like a Dragon Age game. I kind of get what you mean. Yeah. Will Concord break Suicide Squad numbers? I think Suicide Squad coming from Rocksteady was already a big buff to players, but then again, it also hurt it because people started already pretty pissed that they were doing that instead of another single player game. So I'm honest, I don't know. I don't think it does. I don't think it does better. Like they'll do this play test and stuff. People will give a shot. And if the play test is overwhelmingly positive, then yeah, that could be helpful. But maybe we could see some improvements there. But as for other stuff, like bet it does better than people expect. Like it might, just because people might sleep on it, and specifically like the player numbers will not be useful during the playtest beta whatever thing, because what they've already said is if you pre-order it, you will get like 4 or 3 invites or 4 invites to the beta for your friends so they can try it early. So straight up, the actual number of pre-orders might be 1/5 of the player count. So they need a lot of players during the player test or the beta test for it to show some real potential, and they might get it. I mean, they might go out swinging and like pay a bunch of big streamers to play it and do that for like a week. But that's the thing, is like they have to spend so much money trying to get people excited for it. It's just, man. Pal World's update. I think the people still playing Pal World will like it, but I don't think it's going to see a huge resurgence of players or anything. Pal World's one of those games kind of like maybe you could say like Animal Crossing, where it comes out at a perfect time where there's nothing else really going on, and so it just fits perfectly into that little groove. And I think that will help it, or that helped it a lot. But now that there's going to be other bigger stuff coming out, I don't think people are going to go back to it in droves, which is fine. I mean, they already got their cash, right? When's podcast with Jor? We're going to do the podcast with Jor on Friday. He had a very, very long flight. So I was like, take the night off, dude. Go get some sleep. So yeah, we'll do it Friday. Yeah, they'll just get Shroud and Dr. Lupo again. Yeah, and they will look painfully uninterested the whole time. And then the second the game comes out, they won't play it. They'll be totally checked out. It's like we said. I was like, I would bet you guys a lot of money they're not even going to be playing this. They're not even going to be playing it when the game comes out. And sure enough, the game comes out, and it's like, nope, they're still playing Counter-Strike or whatever else, Valorant. So... just real quick before I go, guys, is Star Wars The Acolyte really that bad? Is it really that bad? Because I've seen posts and stuff. Yeah, it's trash. Yes, it is that bad. Yes. It's the best, says our resident troll. Literally the only person who's like, yeah, it's good. The only one saying it is the guy that is like passionately trolling. I love it. Oh man, I've seen better kids plays. Star Wars is dead. Don't watch it. Just do something else. Yeah, man. Okay. Yeah, I the whole thing they want is they want watch hours. So even if I'm curious, I'm not going to like watch it through their platform. Like there's just no way, because then that helps them. Like even if it's critically mocked, if they're getting hours viewed, like they still are probably a little happy about it. So I don't know. I'll probably watch a review breakdown or something of it where somebody can explain it to me, where I'm not giving Disney anything. Oh man. Okay. Well, everybody, I'm going to go help Nikki put the kids down for nap. We kind of eased into this because we've been off for about a week, but I will be back on Friday with the podcast with the one and only Jor Raptor, and we'll talk about everything we saw, and he'll tell me about some stuff he saw that I didn't see, and vice versa. It's going to be really, really good. So we'll do that. In the meantime, yeah, for nap. Yeah, we're putting them down? No, Luke, no. Oh, did I just say we got to go put the kids down? Oh, that's why you guys were being weird. Yeah, put them down for nap. Yeah. So we're going to go do that. I'll be back Friday, and we'll have some fun announcements and stuff that we'll be doing in the next week or two. So buckle up for that. It's going to be good. Go watch the Star Wars Outlaws and Assassin's Creed videos on the main channel, where I kind of offered my thoughts there. And beyond that, yeah, I would imagine we're going to do a deep dive into AC again tomorrow or Friday with Joe Raptor. So we'll talk about it a lot. Just buckle up. Okay. Much love. I'll see you soon. Stay safe, everyone. I'll see you in the next one. Hugs and kisses. Bye-bye.